and thank you for being at our performance here. And we're just so delighted to be able to give this performance here next to the USS Missouri and play some music for you, and also just remember why we're here and why all of this trip was able to happen for these students. And it's been a great couple days, and this is we've been looking forward to this moment. So thank you all for being here. We're going to go ahead and start things off with the national anthem. Thank you. Next, we're going to play Semper Fidelis March, followed by God Bless America.
Cooey?
Yeah.
Right? Navy!
Thank you. At this time, I would like to introduce our guest speaker, Mr. Ralph Cooey. I'm going to read his biography before he comes up and says a few words this afternoon. So Ralph reported aboard the USS Missouri in July of 1988 as a Chief Petty Officer. He was an operations specialist, which is to say a radar expert. But the responsibilities went beyond that to include all aspects of Navy operations. Working in Combat Information Center and Combat Engagement Centers aboard the battleships are also considered experts on all facets of naval warfare, anti-air, anti-sub, anti-surface, electronic, tactical air control, communications, naval gunfire support. Basically everything a ship does in peace and war are actively involved in, the operations specialists. He was assigned to 2 ships, a frigate, USS Olette from 1981 to 85, and then the Missouri right here from 1988 to 1990. In between, he was assigned to be a Navy liaison to a federal counter-drug task force in Los Angeles. This experience steered him to his post-Navy career with the FBI as an intelligence analyst in the counter-drug and counter-terror communities, from which he retired in the year 2017. Before he returned to the Missouri, he was with the Hawaii Emergency Management Agency, working in the State Warning Point, the agency's Warning and Alert Center. Would you please welcome to the mic Mr. Ralph Cooey.
Thank you, Jason, and thank you to you musicians. Man, that was one of the most amazing things I've ever heard in my life. Give yourselves a cheer, please. On December 7th, 1941, at 7:55 a.m., the quiet calm of Sunday morning was shattered by explosions and the hoarse sound of general quarters alarms. In the first few minutes of that attack, hundreds of American soldiers, sailors, and Marines had already lost their lives. This was the tragedy. Then came the triumph. The personnel aboard those ships did not wait for orders, but rather reacted in accordance with their training, and in those same first few moments, filled the sky with anti-aircraft bursts. It is important to note that the most of them were barely older than these student musicians standing behind me here. The war that began with that attack lasted 3 years and 10 months, during which time some 69 million people lost their lives. Then on September 2nd, 1945, USS Missouri was anchored in Tokyo Bay, Japan. The destroyer USS Lansdowne brought a delegation of Japanese representatives alongside. Among them was the Foreign Minister Mamoru Shigemitsu. He had for years led the peace movement within Japan's government, and this did not make him popular with the hardliners, of course, wanted to fight to the last man and the last bullet. Mr. Shigemitsu was targeted several times for assassination. One of these attempts cost him his right leg. It was painfully difficult for him that day to have to climb down the side of a destroyer, up the side of a battleship, and up yet another ladder to get up to the deck for the ceremony. I also know that when someone risks their life several times in the cause of peace, that by definition makes him a tough guy. At the approved time, General Douglas MacArthur came on deck and opened the ceremony with just a few words. But it's important to note that in 5,000 years of Japan's history, she had never been conquered, never been defeated, never been occupied, never had to surrender to anybody. So this act of coming here that day, having to submit to both surrender and occupation, was not only unique to those representatives, it was also a profound shock to their entire country. It's very important that we understand that today. So when General MacArthur began speaking, he didn't talk about revenge or retaliation or recrimination. Instead, he talked about justice, tolerance, peace, and reconciliation. And this took the Japanese completely by surprise. On the day that they had come here, to surrender to their bitterest enemy, the last thing they expected was to be treated with this level of dignity and respect. At that point, General MacArthur invited, not ordered, invited the Japanese to come forward and sign the surrender, which they did. Over the next 23 minutes, the required signatures were applied to the documents, and the war was over. General MacArthur went to a microphone which was connected to a international radio hookup, and he said these words: "Today the guns are silent. A great tragedy has ended. A great victory has been won. Death no longer reigns from the skies. The seas bear only commerce. Men everywhere walk upright in the sunlight, and the entire world lies quietly at peace." One of the Japanese representatives would later record in his diary that the general's words turned the deck of this warship into an altar for peace. Missouri is a magnificent sight, a presence both majestic, and she is a vessel of war, but she is also a symbol of peace. It was here on these decks that humanity's longest and bloodiest war finally came to an end. It was here on these decks where peace was restored throughout the world. And it was here on these decks where hope was reborn. That day was day one of a new relationship, a new way forward. Once the bitterest of enemies, Japan and the United States became the closest of friends. Now, those of us who work aboard the Missouri tell this story with respect, dignity, passion, and pride. Those who once knew come to us and remember. Those who never knew come to us to learn. It is easy to look only at the guns and the armor and the missiles and conclude that this is the only story Missouri can tell. But when Missouri speaks, when you stand on that deck on the 01 level starboard side and you look at that plaque embedded in the deck, know that this ship of war is also a place of peace. This is how I know my ship, a place where the seemingly impossible dream of peace became a reality. I am proud, so very proud, to share this story with you. It is my hope that from this day we can all realize what can be done when we are strong enough, united enough, and willing enough to do the impossible. Thank you very much for coming to my ship today. Please enjoy the rest of your day aboard the battleship Missouri.
Thank you again, Mr. Cooey, for those wonderful words. At this time, we'd like to honor the fallen by playing Amazing Grace, followed by taps. Thank you very much. I want to thank again Mr. Cooey. Can we please give another round of applause for those wonderful words? And as we wrap up here today, in the spirit of celebrating what this ship stands for and peace and the end of the war, we're going to flip things back to a slightly more positive tone in the music as we kind of wrap up. And of course, since we're in Hawaii, we need to play Hawaii Five-O for you, naturally. So we'll do that, and then we'll finish up with our school fight song, Rally. And then parents, when we're done, before we march out, we're going to give you just a minute to come up here, maybe take a couple photos before we kind of leave this area. And then we'll march back out and continue on with the rest of the afternoon. While I'm here talking to you all, I'd like to just give a public thanks to all of our chaperones and the people who have helped make this trip go so far. Can we hear it for our wonderful parents who are helping out? And our fantastic staff over here, could we please hear it for Mr. Riesenberg and Mrs. Lobsher, Mrs. Gimmel, working with the color guard. Our student teacher, Mr. Langbine, is here as well. And parents, let's hear it for your students out here in Hawaii playing today. Outstanding. All right, here we go, Hawaii Five-O.